Hello, everyone, and welcome to another rousing episode of Bodied, the Cloud9 fan cast. I'm your host, Havokpus, and I'm joined with my favorite co-host, Frozencreek.
Yeah, we are back to regular s- station. Nope, can't think of the word for some reason. But we're both here this week. It's not just a full on half-hour rant by me.
Yes,
So I'm
luckily,
glad you're back.
luckily my schedule allowed it.
Yeah, how's your job going?
It's tiresome. There's almost too much to learn to the point to where I'm just trying to learn the just enough to where I can be left on my own and not have to worry about everything catching fire.
I think that's all engineering is. So,
It's basically that's actually engineering in a nutshell.
in my understanding, at least.
Same. Well, Frozen, we have a really special episode because once again another Cloud9 team has brought home the biggest of W's. The London Spitfire, a team that I have been very critical of, perhaps maybe too critical, has has won the Overwatch League season championship by defeating the Philadelphia Fusion in a stunning 6-1 total map record.
Yeah, it was surprising. I guess to say the least. I know some of us didn't have much hope going into playoffs. We kind of wrote off their last two stages as being bad, but I think they proved everybody wrong. And as as Monty always said on stage, that London has like the best talent. It's just a matter of if they can put it together or not. And but they obviously did. They kicked ass.
Yeah, I think it was a really perfect storm of the meta being flexible enough to where London could actually play the game how they want to play and like to play, as well as the coaches and the players just coming together and between like stage 4 and their match against the Gladiators, they just practiced really hard. I think it shows. I've read interviews where like the only reason they lost that first match to the Gladiators was basically because they had no idea iRemix was playing until the last minute, and so they had completely prepared for how Fisher played, and so they basically played like Fisher was playing without Fisher, and it just completely threw things out of out of whack. And then they finally you know got it together and they beat the Gladiators. Then they came in to just sweat the Valiant pretty much. I was really surprised just because the Valiant had so much more time to practice and really prepare for the Spitfire. I was a little, I guess, assured in the sense that London had beaten Valiant before, so it wasn't like some impossible task like the Gladiators match. And then the Fusion, it was fun. I was kind of hoping for New York just to have a Korea versus Korea battle, but to see London just take it to a really strong team like Philly and just completely sweep them is no short of amazing.
Yeah, I mean they swept. Uh, I swept them off the map. I thought obviously Prophet looked insane, but I was really impressed with how he switched between heroes because 2 months ago he was a tracer in Genji bot, and that was almost all he played. So to see him come out and play some Brigitte among a few other things, he was spectacular.
Yeah, the hero switching for London in the playoffs was like 10 times better than they have been during the regular season. The issue London had was that they really didn't seem to know when to switch. Sometimes they would be switching too early or just stick with something just because and not really switch off when it wasn't really time to. But the team did a really good job of managing which heroes were played when, as well as just everyone playing their roles really well. Bedosin was amazing at just flexing between Roadhog and Tracer and Zenyatta. He actually did fairly well during the playoffs as Tracer, which is weird. And Prophet can just play everything. He got like a 3K with May on defense. He got a 5K on Tracer a little bit later in that match on Volskaya against the Fusion, where he basically single-handedly killed their entire team.
It was
And Birdring stepped up and played like, in the form that everyone expects him to play at least before the wrist injury, and everyone just played and communicated well. It was really what I wanted to see from London all along. And I think also one thing that helped was, I think, just Jester and Nuss kind of put aside their differences, because I think I read like a post-game interview, and Jester was saying how Nuss and him would actually fight a lot. And I think that sort of contributed to this disconnect that I saw between the front line and the back line, and trying to figure out how those two kind of things operated and coexisted. But I think, they kind of made up and figured out, like, okay, here's how we should play. And since everyone was on the same page, they played amazingly.
Yeah. I don't think I have too much more to add about how they played, but I guess we can transition to another kind of Overwatch League topic. So, how do you think the first season of Overwatch League went?
I think it went well. I think there was a great amount of parity between most, if not all, the teams. So it's not like, yes, there were the Shanghai Dragons, who did not win a single match, but
Somehow.
somehow, I mean, in individual maps, they looked competitive, and they looked like they could actually, and they won some maps, and it looked like they could actually take home a win. But it was just that they had so many problems, and then that's a whole other thing. But I think the Overwatch League was really successful. It had, I think, a pretty steady number of viewers throughout the season, some really good parity, a lot of high end talent coming in, and some meta shifts that were able to keep the game somewhat fresh, but they also did it kind of in a structured way to make it so that it's not like League, where halfway through the season, oh yeah, by the way, we radically changed the game and you're gonna have to deal with it.
Yeah. I think overall it was extremely successful. I do think you made a good point about the meta changes throughout the split. Yeah, they definitely weren't are really all that big. But you could kind of also see like a natural meta like form too, which
Yeah.
I I thought was pretty cool. Like at first, London was all dive all the time, and then they kind of worked around that towards the end of the split, and kind of a readapted readapted to how the game is played. So, what do you think is the longevity of something like Overwatch League? How long do you think they're going to be able to like keep it fresh?
I think they can keep it fresh for a while. I mean, this is maybe a bit too optimistic, but I think that, considering how the first season went, it was really good. They were able to completely sell out the Barclay Center in New York, which seemed to be a pretty sizable stadium from what I saw from the footage. So sorry. So that, and I think they can still tweak some things since it's early. Maybe give, more viewership rewards. Maybe do things to just make watching better. Especially since I think they're going to try to have more coverage on ESPN, like Disney XD and stuff. So, just sort of market penetration and tightening things up to appeal to sort of the common man, I think, is their next step. But I think what they've done is a really good start, and it was a really enjoyable experience.
Yeah, I can agree with all that. Do you think that there's any chance it can outlast League of Legends?
I think that's really difficult because they're basically two separate games, and
Yeah.
and how they are run and operated is completely different from one another. I can see them definitely sort of cohabitating in the same sort of franchised esports space, where they kind of, I could see like a timeline where they kind of work off of each other to ensure that both of their games are being watched and everyone is experiencing the most of them without having to like pick and choose or something.
Yeah. Personally, I would like to see the league go on longer, but I'm not sure at this point, just because of how well I think Overwatch League was polished up and pretty much thought through the whole time. And now they're bringing in a few more teams, and hopefully that kind of makes it a little bit bigger.
Yeah, I'm excited to see the brands for Atlanta, especially since I am from the South. So to have sort of a Southern team would actually be super cool, and would definitely be someone that I would root for. Spitfire first though.
Yeah, of course. I don't
And
know how that goes.
well, let's move on to our next little topic, and that is the British Hurricanes. Staying on Overwatch, the British Hurricanes actually got relegated from the contenders tournament, and
Feels
they had to
bad.
go back to the. I can't remember if it's trials or the pit. I can't remember which one it was, but they were relegated.
I am not sure.
Well, it's somewhat surprising just because they were the season one contenders champions. So going from like champions to relegation from season one to season two is kind of odd.
Oh yeah.
And I think it's mostly just because they lost Craggy and they don't have anyone that's explosive as him, DPS wise, and they look like they also really struggled with playing with Widow because before that the meta was basically Slambulance, and the Hurricanes were really good at Slambulance comps. So to go from fighting constantly to playing more controlled, sort of long range poke play, I think is could definitely be a really difficult transition.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to mention it, since
Yeah. Or no,
that kind of happened.
I'm
Um,
just I
yeah,
wasn't
go ahead.
able to watch it this week.
Yeah, neither did I. I've been working, so I've never been able to catch the past few Hurricanes matches.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Moving on to some battle royale stuff. It looks like Cloud9's Zoof secured seventh place and top two eliminations in the most recent summer skirmish. And I think him or either another C9 player was invited to the next summer skirmish. Um, Fortnite's weird right now. I have no idea how they're structuring it here as well as in Korea. It's the battle royale games right now are just so hard to keep up with because there's all these little tiny events and stuff, and it's not really organized yet, and it's really frustrating. Um, but probably the bigger news is C9 has actually changed their PUBG roster, and remember PUBG is the original C9 battle royale team. So, well, wait, no, actually, I take that back. It was H1Z1 first. They had an H1Z1 team for about a week. Um,
Oh yeah.
so they got rid of I think Froliser and I forgot the other person's name. But they have added Nerf and Kamid. Nerf and Kamid, from at least from the announcement, both have had recent pretty good successes in recent events. So it could be going forward. This might be better for the overall team. You're adding more firepower. I'm really just not sure how it's gonna go since PUBG is really weird, and compare that to like Fortnite and Fortnite numbers, you might just be kind of walking into the wind here or whatever. But hopefully they do well at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, Frozen not interested in battle royale.
No, I don't get to watch it as much as I would like, and a lot of it is I just don't get notified of it happening until it's over with,
Oh yeah, same
which is
here.
like the
Like
big thing.
yeah, like I'll just be like scrolling through Twitter and I'll see a Cloud9 announcement saying like, hey, this dude's playing in a Fortnite event, and I'm like, really? Oh, this was like 3 hours ago. Um,
Oh, yeah.
and stuff like that.
Well, they're playing Fortnite, or at least they were before we started on the Cloud9
Yeah,
Twitch
yeah.
channel.
I meant PUBG, not Fortnite. But I mean, it's the
Yeah,
same
but
principle.
I'm just saying,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
same idea.
Also some other news for those big Clash Royale fans.
Oh,
Clash
we
Royale
know
hasn't
you're out there.
it hasn't even started yet. It doesn't start until later this month.
Yeah, but they're still out there.
Yeah. But Cloud9 has finally finalized their Clash Royale roster. They have added Wings, who I believe went through this kind of scouting grounds combine sort of thing for the Clash Royale League. And so with him and the three other players, and I think they signed two coaches, the Clash Royale roster is finally ready to go. So for those really itching for some Clash Royale action and at least just wanting to see what the hell it's about, the team is assembled. Now we just have to wait for the actual season to start.
To be honest, I didn't realize that Clash Royale staff was that sophisticated.
Yeah, it's really weird that we're actually getting a bunch of um big names. I think I saw one tweet that I think Cloud9 retweeted where someone was ranking the Clash Royale teams and they put Cloud9 in first. Um, I haven't looked in it too much, but from announcement that C9 have leaked out and everything, as you know, the roster is sort of being built, they're signing a lot of really high caliber players. So I'm hoping that Clash Royale does really well because I think that having at least a presence in some form of mobile esports is important. You know, I really miss Vainglory. I miss it so much. But I'm hoping that Clash Royale will be a nice dominant substitute.
Yeah, and I know some of the Twitch channels that have showed LCK in the past now show Clash or Royale now. Sometimes I'm not sure which channel it is, but yeah, I've watched it a couple times. It seems interesting enough.
Yeah, I've played it. It's like this weird mix of like a card game and a MOBA at the same time, or like an RTS and a card game. It's really weird, but it has like a lot of strategy involved in sort of deck building and how you utilize the cards that you draw. So it seems fairly entertaining. I haven't seen it in sort of an esports capacity yet.
Yeah, I've only watched a couple games, but it should be fun. I mean, it is a fun game. It's easy to learn.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. Um, I don't have anything else for Clash Royale. The final stuff before we move on to League of Legends is that Mango participated in the low tier City 6 tournament. He did all right. He ended up losing to Armada in top 8, which kind of sucks, but at the same time, it's Armada, and I think Armada is still considered one of the best melee players in the world. At least I think. So it's not that bad, I guess. I think it's mostly, I don't know, Mango's kind of fallen off a bit. I think ever since Tafo left for CLG, I think he's missing sort of the structure that made him try to really push himself again. And maybe he's just kind of struggling. I don't know. There hasn't been a lot of melee events, I don't think.
Yeah, I feel like I haven't really seen him do well except the one time I watched the Ann Arbor tournament maybe last year, and there he played a really exceptional match. So hopefully we can find the Mango that we know and love back
Yeah,
again,
hopefully.
even though we still
I'm
love him
actually
all
curious,
the
Frozen, do you
time.
think that C9 will end up picking a Smash Ultimate player? Because this is going
I
to be a really hot game, and I think it's going to push a lot of Smash players from Melee and Smash 4 and maybe even some other skilled fighting game players to sort of this game. Do you think that we will end up picking up a Smash Ultimate player to kind of, you know, get that fresh?
I would think I think so. Cloud9's been pretty good about picking up players for new games are relatively early, and that if there's a decent scene for it, I don't see why they wouldn't try and make a move
Yeah,
for
I'm
it.
I'm hoping they pick someone exceptionally good up. I don't really care where they're from, as long as they're super duper good. I've actually I remember I wrote like a post about how they need to expand more globally. I'd love to see them just kind of pick someone up from like the Japanese scene, just because that would be so interesting. Um, but really, I don't really care where the player comes from as long as they're super good. As well as just maybe
Oh yeah.
expanding it into fighting games in general. Like I would love to see like a Marvel versus Capcom or a Street Fighter player, or like a DBZ player or something.
Oh yeah. They've done that stuff in the past, I think. Haven't they?
I don't think so. I don't think we've ever had like a traditional fighting game player.
Trying to think. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but maybe someone out there can.
If you know, let us know in the comments. Well, I have been stalling as much as I can for League of Legends, so let's move into it. Cloud9 finally got the 2-0 Frozen. They did it.
That they did. It took them a
It only took
long
them 5
time.
weeks.
Yeah, and it was at probably the very last chance to get a 2-0 and still have not a terrible shot at making playoffs. So it couldn't
Yeah,
have came at a better
the
time.
weird thing is they got it against TSM and Echo Fox, like their two biggest rivals. And they beat them, which is odd.
Yeah, I know. They looked decent in both games. I mean, I'm not going to say that they were incredible, but I thought that they looked good and they played to their win conditions decently well, except the Echo Fox game.
The
But
Echo
they
Fox
were
game
able.
was weird. I think the issue is that since Licorice is such an exceptional player and he's improved incredibly in such a small amount of time, um, and as well as Sneaky is skilled enough to where he can kind of be self-sufficient and play on his own. Like playing Quinn. Quinn actually has a fairly good amount of safety. Bird form is super fast, so you can kind of run away. Her vault kind of gets you out of auto attack range, and you can maybe turn with her damage. So Sneaky can kind of and her Q I think is wave clear, so Sneaky can kind of be by himself. So he doesn't need as much jungle help, and he can kind of take losing a lane if that means helping Licorice one lane. So Blabber's putting a lot of pressure topside to help Licorice. Jensen's just making sure that he goes even, and Sneaky doesn't really care if he gets behind or not. So yeah, it was kind of a weird series. I think starting looking at the TSM game though, the team has looked good. I think they just have sort of a struggle early game. But as the match goes on, they look better. Like Blabber and Zazel, they'll miss a bunch of skill shots early in the match, but as it's going to the end, they're landing like almost everything, and they look way better.
The classic medios at 60 minutes Alison.
Yeah, yeah. I think that does speak to their mental fortitude though, because I think since they're new young players, I mean I know I would kind of tilt if it's in a big match and early on I'm just missing like every pike hook or every Elise cocoon. But they basically play like they haven't missed anything, which is great because they definitely needed that mentality going into the late game when Echo Fox kind of had to start throwing the match because all of the gold was on Braum and Rengar.
Yeah, it really worked out in the end, but that early game was pretty far from impressive. But I think the good thing that they have started to show these past couple of weeks is that they're willing to fight almost just for the sake of fighting, which which seems to kind of be in the meta right now. Like not fighting just to fight, but like if you can fight, you might as well fight. Kind of
That's
thing.
also kind
Yeah.
of been C9's calling card, right? Like even way back when High was on the team, they would just scrap. It wasn't really about macro play or anything super fancy. It was just do your best in lane, and then we're just gonna take it to them. And I think their opponents wouldn't like be prepared to like, oh, we're fighting now, and then they would win. So it fits within their play style, and C9 has been doing that for like just historically, I think for a little while now. So it helps with them. I think also the team is getting into the groove with these new players. I think Zazel is actually helping the team because if you look at Svenskeren and Smoothie are gone. C9's no longer throwing. Thinking face.
I mean, Smoothie didn't really get a good chance to play on stage in his defense.
No, yeah, this is true, but I mean, looking at Spring Split as well, they also sort of had a similar theme of they would have a good early game, and then they would just kind of look lost and not know where to go, and they would have positioning mistakes. It just feels like with the roster how it is now, it feels at least like it's sort of a back to bare bones kind of back to basics approach to the game. But the team is really solid about the game plan, and I think Zazel is kind of helping with that. He knows like, okay, this is what we need to do next. We're gonna do it, or if we do this, they can do. If we do X, they can do Y. So I think we don't have access to comms sadly, but I think that just his presence and how he communicates, I think it's definitely showing, and it's finally starting to show results now that Sneaky and Jensen are playing, and Blabber is there and is able to be more of this sort of aggressive supporting jungler that's able to really relieve some pressure off of Licorice, for instance, and allow him to play how he wants to play.
Yeah, I think they've seemed to show a decently proficient early game most of the time. I think a decent amount of what happened against Echo Fox was unlucky, I guess. I thought that for the most part they played the jungle matchup decently. It's just that Blabber wasn't able to find the actual timings of when ganks were going to happen. So
Yeah, I agree.
He lost a couple early skirmishes and missed a hell of a lot of cocoons. So he looked like an Alabama quarterback out there.
He Jalen Hurts it for the first half, and then he turned into Tua the second half to win it.
Yeah, I don't quite know what happened later on because I feel like there should have been no world in which we won that game anyway. But
it was honestly because Echo Fox started to get lazy with their positioning around the Oriana ball. So Jensen hit some really good shockwaves, as well as Licorice was able to just farm and make it so Huni couldn't get as powerful on Poppy. So Licorice was able to have a really big presence. Jensen's Oriana should always be feared, and I think also, just Zazel was actually landing the pike hooks. Blabber was able to actually follow up and land cocoons. And I think that really that's just the difference. If Blabber had hit all the cocoons that he missed in the early game, C9 would have been way more ahead. And they probably would have won in a much better fashion, really.
oh yeah, I agree. Um, I think despite 2-0 this week, I I I still feel like the bot lane has been bad. Like not even like bad, like a hyperbole bad, but like they've just been straight up bad. They've
I think
died in lane times.
one issue is definitely they're not getting enough jungle pressure. Blabber's putting a lot of emphasis on the top side because Licorice can literally carry games by himself now. So he's been paying attention to top and mid a lot more than bot. So bot lane is now getting hung out to dry, and Sneaky's not able to do what Sneaky can clearly do, mostly because, hey, we know Blabber's going to be top side. Let's just gank bot side for some free gold and just like four man them. And it just makes things difficult.
I mean, it's true to some extent, but they still got solo killed at least a couple times against Echo Fox, and I think one time against Team Liquid last week when they had the Swain in the bottom lane. Sneaky
Oh
was
yeah, I
down
think
like
I remember that.
yeah, Sneaky was down like 20 CS at like 10
Yes,
or
it was that game. Yeah, that was weird.
12 minutes or something dumb. Like it wasn't even like a bad matchup. They just weren't killing the minions correctly under the turret. I guess maybe they just didn't have enough practice on it or something. But I think they got solo killed that game too, or they got dove a couple times.
Yeah, I think
Not sure which. It's a
I don't
toss
know.
up.
I'm not sure about Sneaky's performance. Sneaky is weird because he can have a really bad laning phase, but then when it comes to not having a lane to lane in, Sneaky does really well in team fights, and he's a really great team player and a leader that the team needs. So it kind of balances out. I think maybe he's partially struggling because Zazel's still inexperienced, and he's just having to play the best he can and try not to die.
Yeah, I feel like something's just not clicking between them, and it's been rough. Like,
Yeah, it's tough to say. C9 is at a weird spot right now because they're looking like they are improving. The only question is how much can they improve in the little time they have, and can they make playoffs? Because right now, like there's like 4 or 5 teams tied for 6, and one of them is us.
yeah,
Well, who are we playing next week, Frozen?
I forgot to look it up. 1 second.
Oh, so did I. I thought you had it.
I normally do. Almost there. Clutch Gaming Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and CLG at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sunday. So
All right. So
the
a
second game
couple
should be
other
fun.
toughies.
I think at this point, all of them are toughies.
Okay, good point. I think the clutch game will be really interesting because they overhauled the roster in a couple of areas. Like Piglet's playing now,
Yeah,
and I can't remember who else they swapped out, but I know Piglet's playing.
yeah. Oh, jeez. Was it? I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to look it up, which I guess I can
I
do right
can't
now.
remember. They got rid of. I think they swapped out Apollo and Hakuho for Piglet and somebody else.
It's loading. So how do you? I'll update you when it finally loads. So how are you feeling about? Oh, they put it in Moon.
Oh yes, they put in Moon.
Jesus, and Vulcan is playing support.
Vulcan was in the scouting grounds. I remember he was actually.
I
Um,
I guess so, but they have not been doing all that good this split. So I guess I can't exactly say if it's going well or not. They're currently alone in last place at 4-8. So
ooh.
I think that's a
Uh,
winnable game. It should be.
it should be. I'm not going to take any chances. I think the team just needs to take these matches one step at a time and really just say, okay, how do they play and how do we counter it? Because I don't think they can do what some teams do, especially if they have games that they can kind of throw away where they go, okay, we're not going to prepare for this team because we know theoretically on paper we should beat them. Let's prepare for a team that's really doing well instead. So I don't know. CLG is always tough. You know, they have always been a team that is greater than the sum of their parts. In that alone, I don't know how high I would rate their players individually. You know, they've all been kind of wishy washy. I know Rainover's had some really bad games. Darshan has had bad games. Huhi has had some bad games, though Huhi's impressed me by how much he's able to improve since he started playing for CLG. You know, 6A has had slumps, but if you with their powers combined, they form this Captain Planet monster that is CLG, and they're able to play really well tempoed macro play and just play things so much better as a unit rather than individuals. And I think that's going to really make things difficult for C9, especially now that they're still trying to figure out with how things are currently going.
Yeah, they're always a really tough matchup for Cloud9. I think they have beaten us the last few times.
I think so. Yeah, I know that we lost to them at least this split. They're really tough because I think they just play so much differently than a lot of the other teams. Like I think a lot of the teams tried to replicate how Korea plays, and CLG doesn't do that as much, and they just try to play how they play, and forcing a team to come down to your level can be a really powerful asset.
Yeah, and I can I think if you're gonna pick a game to watch this week, that this is the one to watch.
Yeah, for sure.
The Cloud9 CLG roster or CLG games always add up to to some fun.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Before we close out, there was an interesting bit of news that I saw. Riot is experimenting with having a stagecoach, not an actual stagecoach, but like a second, like a I think specifically like a pick band coach on stage with the regular coach. So you'd have like the head coach that would sort of be maybe giving them strategic information, while you would also have a second coach on stage sort of conferring with the team and deciding more maybe how the draft actually goes. So you would actually have more communication among the team and the coaches rather than having just one dude stand up there and having to do everything. So what do you think on that? Do you think that that would make the draft more interesting, more advanced in sort of the layers that play out, or do you think it would just make things maybe a bit messy?
I think it has the ability to do both depending on how the team plans on executing it. I can see a world where the pick band or where the pick band coach and then like the strategic coach have a tough time reaching the team in comms when they both
Mm-hmm.
obviously have very important things to say, and they could probably talk through that entire pick and ban phase about their specific strategies on their own. So I do think that it's gonna. Some teams are not going to find much of a benefit in it, but I think that some teams are going to be able to optimize their drafts a little bit better. I think having someone whose job is to mainly just focus on drafting and can consult with like statisticians and stuff who might be able to work through some of the drafting power problems and such would be
I think
an
it can
interesting way
be
to go.
I think it can be good. I think I've even mentioned before on the show that I would like to see something like this. I think that I would actually like to see it kind of be moving towards sort of more how like football works, where all of the coaches are kind of talking to each other and they're relaying information to each other and the team. I'm not sure how they would make that work, but I would really like to see at least two coaches on stage doing two specific roles rather than one coach just trying to do everything and hoping that it works out. Um, I think it could be cool. We'd have to see, maybe try it out for a split just to see if it would work or not, or maybe do like some test matches. I mean, test matches would just be great just to see how pros feel about it and see if they feel any difference in terms of overall strategic thinking.
Yeah, uh, I think the main thing is that a lot of the preparation is done before they actually go on stage. So the coach isn't going to be able to say much more or relay much more important information than what they already have going into the pick and ban phase that they
Yeah,
shouldn't
that's
already
true.
know. So I I'm interested to see how teams use it, but I wouldn't be surprised if there were teams that elected not to use it because almost all the preparation is done beforehand, and there's probably even time for the head coach to work on pick and ban phases
Yeah, that's true.
on their own. Because
Well, we'll just have to see, I guess.
yeah, so I think it'll be an interesting thing to watch, and I'm excited that they're trying out new things that might add more strategic elements to the game.
Yeah, I think anything that they can do to kind of make watching sort of dead time, like Pickman, for instance, be a bit more interesting and maybe a bit more entertaining.
Yeah, I'm always for seeing innovation in sports in some way when it comes to off field or off screen
Yeah, for sure.
games. So I'm interested to see if they can develop a better optimized pick and ban strategy that maybe they haven't discovered yet. So I don't- I think it's fine. It's a good idea.
Yeah.
Um, before we end, maybe we should talk a little bit about playoffs really quickly.
Maybe let's save that for next episode.
All right. Well, I'm gonna give a update then.
Okay. Yeah. No. Yeah. Go ahead. Do the update.
Okay. So currently, Cloud9 is sitting at 5-7, tied with Counter Logic Gaming for 6th. I think if they were to have an 0-2 week from here on out, that they would be pretty close. Oh, sorry, they're tied with CLG, Golden Guardians, and TSM, all at 5-7. So I think that an 0-2 week from between any of the last 3 weeks, I believe it's just 7, 8, and 9 are the 3 weeks left, and 7 is this week. So an 0-2 week would knock us out. A 1-1 week wouldn't be the end of the world, but a 2-0 week could move us off of the borderline fringe position. So I'm hoping that we can get a 2-0 this week, because this is probably our easiest week left.
Yeah, I'm hoping for that too. It's actually kind of crazy how many teams are kind of now. I think how the game has been curated, I guess is the right word, has been interesting. I've kind of liked it for the most part, just to see more flexibility. But I can definitely see some people getting annoyed with it, because it does kind of, it did kind of shove marksman to the side for a little bit, and teams were struggling how to figure that out. And it seemed like just everyone in NA was kind of about at the same level and kind of struggling with each other.
Yeah, the game has definitely taken a weird route, but it seems like Riot is trying to work on it and get it almost kind of back to where it was. So at least in a bot lane marksman setting. So I'm curious to see if we see some of the old glory teams rise back up to the top, or if it's going to just be the teams that have been doing well so far the split already.
Yeah, hopefully C9 will at least rise. As they say, cream rises. So
Yeah, exactly that.
well, I think we've rambled enough. So Frozen, let's get our predictions in, and then we can call it a day.
Alrighty, I'm gonna go 2-0. I think we need a 2-0 week this week, or I wouldn't feel too good about playoffs. But I haven't felt well about it in a while, so that's not saying.
All right. Well, I hope for the 2-0. I think realistically, like one. Considering Clutch's struggles and how far down they've placed, C9, I think maybe has a pretty good shot at beating them. CLG, I'm drawing some question marks still. So, yeah, I think realistically 1-1, hopefully 2-0.
Alrighty, I think that's about it.
All right. Well, thank you for listening to Bodied. We always enjoy your stay. So if you have questions or feedback or anything, tweet us at C9Bodied or email us at bodiedfancast@gmail.com. Yeah, we're approaching our 100th episode. I'm going to try to think of something really special to do. Maybe we'll hold like an AMA or something, or I'll try to maybe get someone special to come on. I don't know. We don't have a lot of clout, but we will think of something fun to do.
Yes, we will. We'll play games with people if that's what they want. I'm
Yeah,
really
game
down.
night could be fun.
Yeah, I'm down for pretty much anything.
Yeah.
So if something sounds fun that we just talked about, let us know in the comments or the Reddit thread, or tweet at us at Bodied on C9 Bodied, at C9 Bodied on Twitter. There we go.
There we go. Got it, third time.
All right. That's all I got.
All right, well, thanks for listening, and goodbye.
Goodbye.